Welcome to the Jeremiah Show, Dr. D. Good day. How are you?
Well, and a good day to you, sir.
Good day. I see you got a new light here. Is that to light your
I just thought
face for us?
I thought I would try something.
You know, it's radio.
I know it's not going to help
hair
much.
and makeup does not need to.
Folks, you need to get closer to your speaker. If you're wearing earbuds, you need to push them into your ear further so that you can pick up on the light that I have illuminating me.
It's just beautiful from where I sit,
yeah,
listeners.
I know.
Okay, I just saw a great film last night.
Yes.
That we're going to talk about today. In fact, this is going to be a two-part show because we have so many guests from this great film I'm about to tell you about on the show today that it's going to take two shows.
Okay.
And we've got the producer. We've got the director. We've got the editor.
Oh, wow.
We have the composer for the soundtrack, for the music score. And we have the actor and writers and co-writers. That's a show. That's enough show to be two shows, which is what we're going to do. And it's such a great topic. This film I'm referring to that I watched last night, and I want you to put this on your list for the weekend. Put this on the list for tonight. If you're thinking about what to watch, I got it for you. I know that you've probably gone through everything on Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, Apple Plus, Paramount Plus, all those streaming channels, and you're looking for something new. So I've got it for you. Here's the film, Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother. So let's get into this a little bit. It's Miss Lillian is, of course, President Jimmy Carter's mother. The movie again is Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother. The cast is incredible, just as incredible as the cast we've got on the show today that made this wonderful film. Principal cast President Jimmy Carter appears in the film. Former First Lady Rosalind Carter. Sam Donaldson. It was so great to see Sam Donaldson again. I haven't seen him for quite a while, and I miss his style. He's got a really great as a broadcaster.
I even saw the trailer and I saw him in there and I'm going, oh my God.
Didn't you? That's what I did.
Stopped using Grecian formula.
Tommy Lasorda. Oh my God. That's so nice. It's Tommy Lasorda, I think, brings one of the most heartfelt, most heartwarming scenes in the film. His reflection on his relationship with Miss Lillian. And Carol Swarbrick is the actor. She's also the co-writer, and this all started as a play that she's in and produced and or acted in and wrote. Okay, let's get just a little refresher here, Dr. D. At 97, just turned 97 October 1st. Jimmy Carter is the oldest living former U.S. president. He only served a single term, but his dedication to humanitarian efforts and down-to-earth personality have made him a favorite amongst progressives. We were mentioning off air, Stephen Ullman, the producer that's just about to join us, voted for him. He was his very first vote. Dr. D, you voted, you didn't vote for him. You were too young at that age, but by 1 year.
I absolutely would have.
And what I remember about Jimmy Carter is when I first, as a child, I don't know what age I was, but I remember, I can figure it out. I won't tell you. He was the first president, watching him on TV and realizing as a kid that there was a president, and there he was on TV. And that was the first one I became conscious of, Jimmy Carter. So to me, he's very special because of that reason. And I always told everybody he's my favorite president, but I had no idea what that meant. I was 11. All right, I'll tell you. Okay, so documentarian Vivian Winther examines the woman who helped shape him in Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother, the film that we're discussing today with the entire production team, pretty much, and the principal actor. Lillian Carter was born in 1898 to a humble family in Southwestern Georgia. Her father ignored the segregationist norms of the time, preferring a hard work ethic over the color of someone's skin. A passion for helping people drove her to nursing school, after which she became a successful local nurse who treated the local African-American community equally alongside her white patients. Lillian Carter later dedicated her life to social activism and served in the Peace Corps, where she treated lepers in India. When her oldest son was elected president, Lillian Carter became popular with reporters and Johnny Carson for her blend of Southern hospitality and directness. It was nice to see Johnny Carson again, too.
Oh,
I used to watch him with my grandfather.
All the time. Love
Such it. Reminded me how funny he is and how I'd like to go back and watch more videos. She never hesitated, Lillian Carter, to tell it like it was or put people in their place when they got out of line. Carter loved baseball, especially the Dodgers, and she became friendly with their manager, Tommy Lasorda. In 1983, she succumbed to breast cancer at the age of 85, and this would be after losing her husband and a daughter to pancreatic cancer. Chuck Foster of Film Threat writes about the film, but what makes Miss Lillian more than a president's mother stand out is the unique way it tells her story. And I really agree. Rather than solely relying on interviews for memories and insights, the core is in the form of a one-woman show performed by Carol Swarbrick. Much in the way Hal Holbrook and Val Kilmer portrayed Mark Twain, Carol embodies Lillian Carter. She brings to life the woman's mannerisms and sassy personality so that we don't just get an impression from other people, but a three-dimensional portrait in her own words. It's really Carol Swarbrick's performance that holds it all together. She isn't just playing President Jimmy Carter's mother. She is the president's mother. Through her monologues, we get a glimpse into Carter's complex personality. She's tender but resilient, always polite, but never afraid to speak her mind. She's a fighter who dedicates her life to helping others, especially those less fortunate than her. All these elements come together so that we get to understand both who Carter was and how Jimmy Carter grew into the man that he is. Okay, producer Stephen Ullman joins us for this part one of this great two-part series exploring the film. And he's been producing and directing live theater for more than 30 years, Dr. D. Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother, marks his foray into producing film. His second film, also with director Vivian Winther, is Imperfect and is now in post-production. During his 10 years as producing artistic director of the Civic Light Opera of South Bay City, Stephen became the only producer in Los Angeles to win the LA Stage Alliance Ovation Award for Best Musical 3 times, for West Side Story, for Dreamgirls, and for Crazy for You. He was also nominated for Best Musical for Titanic, Ragtime, and Forever Plaid. So let's introduce Stephen Ullman to the show. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you.
Believe you're joining us.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Nice to have you. I believe you're joining us from San Francisco today.
I am. I'm in the Bay Area right now. And truth be told, you said I've been producing theater for 30 years. It's 45 years, actually. And wow. I don't mind giving away my age.
Well, I really apologize. Those 15 years I cut off of your resume probably were, I don't want to lose anything that you've provided to the world of theater and entertainment. So I apologize for that.
The good news is this whole film came about because of my relationship with Carol Swarbrick. When I was at the Civic Light Opera of South Bay Cities, Carol did, a good half dozen shows with us. She has a resume that's incredible. She was on Broadway, she did national tours, and then when she settled in Los Angeles, she did regional theater shows, and she is the consummate professional. Great voice, great acting, reliable, a work ethic like nobody else's, and it was a joy to work with her. And then she and her husband moved up to the state of Washington, and we kind of lost touch until about 5 years ago when she phoned me and she said, "Hey, I have written a one-person show and I hear you've produced a bunch of those," which I had, including a couple for Nora Dunn of Saturday Night Live fame. And she said, I'm looking for a producer. Can I interest you in this show about Lillian Carter? And she basically pitched me the show. And I said, sounds interesting. I remember Lillian from the Johnny Carson show, as you do. And why don't you send it to me? And when I read it, and I learned about her humanitarianism, her civil rights leadership before that term really existed, I fell in love with Lillian. And I signed on to do the show. And we got a bunch of regional bookings with the play. And that wound up leading to the film. And how that came about is in the spring of, I think it was 2018, I was in Paris, France, and I had dinner with my friend Vivian Winther, who, as you've already said, became the director of the show. And over dinner, she said, Stephen, what are you working on? And I told her about this Lillian Carter play. And she said, wow, that'd make a cool documentary. And the first contemplation was, we'll make a documentary about the making of the play, and we'll shoot the play on a stage. And then as we kept talking about it over the summer, I said, hey, wouldn't it be a better idea if we could get an interview with President Carter? And oh, by the way, Carol and Jim, who wrote the play, have a relationship with President Carter. I'll let them talk about how that relationship formed. And she said, oh my goodness, wouldn't that be great? So on the event of his 94th birthday, October 1st of 2018, I sent him a birthday card. And in the birthday card, I enclosed a letter introducing myself as the producer of the play that he was well aware of. I didn't expect a response, but I got one. In what I've learned is his fashion, he photocopied my letter and hand wrote in the margin, please come to Plains. We would be delighted to meet with you. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's the opening. And so Jim and Carol wrote a letter, Vivian wrote a letter, and I wrote a letter to President Carter about why we wanted to tell his mother's story. I enclosed with that a formal proposal to do a documentary and asked, would he and Mrs. Carter be willing to sit for an interview? Sent that off in, I think, December of 2018. It wended its way through the Carter organization. And thanks to Carol and Jim, we had people that we knew in the organization who sort of shepherded our proposal through. And in February, I wound up getting a phone call from the final gatekeeper, the woman who is President Carter and Mrs. Carter's scheduler, personal scheduler. And she said, I've got a couple of questions for the sake of clarity. We had a very brief conversation, maybe 10 minutes. And she said, okay, I get it. I'll present it to the Carters this weekend. And on March 19th of 2019, and I know this because it was the day before Carol's birthday. I won't give away which birthday it was for her. If she wants to tell you, she can.
Hey, we're all confessing our age.
7:03 in the morning, I got the phone call that said, it was from Carol because this woman, the scheduler, had called Carol first. Carol called me and said at 7:03 a.m., President Carter will sit for an interview for 1 hour, and 15 minutes later, Mrs. Carter will sit for half an hour on April 16th. That was 4 weeks to the day later. We had done nothing, no pre-production, no fundraising. We had 4 weeks to pull it together. And thanks to Vivian Winther, we put together an incredible team. Alex Hessner, a brilliant director of photography, Tyler Winther, our editor, and also second cameraman, Tara Woodley II, who goes by Bishop because he loves chess, was our sound guy. We pulled this whole team together. And I also negotiated to shoot the film at Jimmy Carter's boyhood home, which is a National Historical Site. The Carter organization was amazing for us. So most of the scenes that you'll see when you watch the film, guys, you'll see all these scenes with Carol Swarbrick portraying Miss Lillian at a house. That's actually Jimmy Carter's boyhood home.
I love that. I told you I love that. Was one of my favorite parts of the film, and it's so because there are great scenes on the bed, on a rocking chair, in the kitchen, in different areas of the house, and Carol is doing a monologue, and talking. She is Vivian or Lillian Carter, and I love just looking around with that great performance, in the house. It takes you right in there.
We didn't bring in furniture. We didn't bring in props. That's all the real stuff.
Yeah.
That is how he was raised, in the place he was raised. And the interviews with President and Mrs. Carter were done in his office in Plains, Georgia, which is in the house that was Miss Lillian's house. So the whole thing just felt so organic, and so it was so moving just to be in those places.
Right.
So exciting to be able to inhabit the space that they had lived in. It was way cool.
Oh God,
I love
I
that.
imagine. I mean, as a viewer, and I really got to encourage people to watch this film. As a viewer, it gave me chills, and in a way, I imagine it really gave you a chill, goosebumps to be in that location shooting.
Without a doubt. And I just have to say this publicly once. The hour that I got to be with President Carter, I will never forget as long as I live. I felt so honored. He is an incredible human being, an incredible man. And I was nervous. I'm meeting a president. He made us all feel at ease so quickly. He's so down to earth, so real, so genuine, so kind. And so was Mrs. Carter. Mrs. Carter was scheduled to be with us for half an hour, and the half an hour passed, and she's telling stories. She's telling stories that have nothing to do with the film we're making, but she's having a good time. And her handler is looking at her watch going, da, 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 da. We have something else to do. And Mrs. Carter basically looked over and said, I'm having fun. Yeah. I'm going to keep talking. And she told us incredible stories about their time in the Georgia State House when he was governor, their time in the White House, none of which we were asking. We limited our questions to talking about his mother, which is what the deal was.
You mentioned
about your mom. We're not asking you about your politics or how you feel about what's going on in the world today or anything like that. We're talking about Miss Lillian, and we did, and he did.
Stephen, you mentioned fair to me. You wished you would have told President Jimmy Carter something. And this is your opportunity that you regretted. You have an opportunity now. Hopefully we can send this to him and he can listen to it and he'll hear this
President
now.
Carter, if you're watching this, I neglected to tell you when I was in your presence, you were the first president I ever had the honor to vote for. And I would vote for you again.
Does that feel better? You got that?
Oh, it feels great.
Never too late for anything.
That's
and
right.
I really regret not having told him when I was with him.
Stephen, I want to go back to the beginning of this story when you wrote. You mentioned that Vivian, Carol, all of you wrote a letter to President Jimmy Carter and to tell him about the film. And in your own words, could you share a little bit about what you wrote to him in that letter that you sent him to invite him?
Of course,
to the film?
I shared why his mother's story, her humanitarianism, her civil rights attitudes were a story that had resonance for me today, and why I thought it was important to tell her story, because I think it is important for people to hear today, because we still face many of the same issues. There is still systemic racism in this country. She fought against it. And she did this in the 1920s, way before it was, popular to talk about these issues. It wasn't even spoken of. These were the Jim Crow days. And it just, I think we all, I can't really speak for Carol and Jim or Vivian, but I think we all expressed essentially the same sentiment, that his mother was such a remarkable woman. As a matter of fact, a lot of our research is based on Jimmy Carter's book called A Remarkable Mother, a book he wrote about Miss Lillian. she was such a remarkable woman. And what she stood for has incredible resonance in our contemporary world today. I think everybody needs to see this film, and everybody needs to embrace the attitudes and the stances that Miss Lillian did. We'd be a better place. The world would be better. The country would be better.
Yeah, in one way, how heroic, how ahead of her time she was, how brave in the 1920s and through her life, that she was outspoken and that she stood up.
She was never afraid to speak her mind, ever. When she volunteered for the Peace Corps at the age of 68, when she got assigned, she asked to be assigned to a country where being white and Christian, which she was, would put her in the minority. In her words, she said, "I think I'll learn more if the tables are turned on me."
And I know you were intrigued by that. That was one of the reasons that you decided to produce the film and make the film, for that fact. What intrigued you so much about that, before we go to break here? About that
so forward thinking
position, and
so open, so giving, so caring. And she imparted those values to her children, not just President Jimmy Carter, but her other 3 children. We all know about Jimmy and Billy, but very few people know that there were 2 daughters in between those 2 boys. And she imparted those values to all of her kids, and they all did well.
We're talking to Stephen Ullman. He's the producer of the film that you must watch this weekend, Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother. When we come back from the break, we'll be joined by Carol Swarbrick. She's the actor and co-writer of the film. And Jim Dries, he's also co-writer. And I believe they're married. They're a couple. And we'll be right back. But before we do, go to misslillian.com and find out more about the film. You can watch through there, but also purchase the film on genie.us/Miss Lillian, or on misslillian.com. On Facebook, you can find them at The Lillian Carter Story. Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother. Contact producer Stephen Ullman at StephenUllmanProductions@gmail.com. And again, in this film, principal cast is President Jimmy Carter, former First Lady Rosalind Carter, Sam Donaldson, Tommy Lasorda, and of course, Carol Swarbrick. We'll be right back.
We're clear. Stand by.
Cool. You okay that I gave out your contact? It's all over everything.
Totally okay.
I just figured, yeah, okay.
I'm totally okay. I'm an open book.
Should I have asked that first?
No. I'm totally cool with it. Not to worry. And Jim and Carol, you should join us on video.
Yeah, we're ready for you.
You did forget to give us your PIN number, though.
We'll take that
and
off.
My social security number too.
And that too, yes, exactly.
Yeah, not happening.
Mother's maiden name.
Yeah, exactly. What was your first dog's name? All right, Stan.
Oh, we've got such a great cast. We got a cast on the radio show today. How does that work?
We do.
By the way, Tyler, the editor, cannot join us today. He's booked.
Okay.
We will have John Van Tongeren, the composer, and we'll have Vivian in the next segment.
Okay. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, returning to audio segment 2 in 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. Dr. D, you love history and you love everything
and
history. How do you like this show we're doing today?
Well, I have to tell you that that the segments and the pieces and the music that you sent me for this program and part 2, I've watched and listened to, especially the Johnny Carson pieces with Lillian.
You were going to like that.
Because I like watching Johnny too.
Yeah.
But she was just marvelous. And the thing that I love about it, and this kind of goes back to one of these trips I took to Ireland where we were kind of going to the cemeteries. And at first I thought, how morbid. And then it dawned on me, and this is where I look at Miss Lillian, because that's how she liked to be called. She is the reason why Jimmy is the way that he is, as well as his children. And that is the legacy that she leaves us with, which, you couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah.
As well as the memories of her. I mean, I'll watch the Johnny Carson stuff over and over again, along with the movie. I'm looking forward to seeing it too.
Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother. You can watch it too, Dr. D. I'm going to send you the link after the show.
Please.
Because I know you're doing the sound and you're not writing stuff down. You mentioned the soundtrack, putting together the soundtrack, Dr. D. We got that soundtrack from producer Stephen Ullman.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of the music is taken from, the CNN documentary, The Rock and Roll President, Jimmy Carter, music that Jimmy Carter loved.
Yeah.
Help me out, Stephen, here with John's the composer. How do you say? Tongren?
John Van Tongeren. We don't use any of the songs from the movie that you referenced about Jimmy Carter, Rock and Roll President.
No, not in your documentary.
In our film, it's an entirely original score composed by John Van Tongeren, who will join us later. Brilliant Grammy award-winning composer. He won a Grammy for scoring the Tom and Jerry show. And he's won the Canadian equivalent of a Grammy. I don't remember what the name of that is, a couple of times. He's a brilliant man. And he brought so much life and tone and mood to our film. I can't wait for him to join us too, but we have Carol and Jim now.
Yeah, we do. And just before we move off John's great music score, he did Thelma and Louise, True Romance, one of my favorite movies. And he also works on Speed and Twister, which the music really drives those films. So welcome back to the show, everybody. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to producer Stephen Ullman of the new film, Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother. We have the actor and the co-writer, Carol Swarbrick, on right now. Let me just give you a quick intro. Acting for more than 5 decades. Again, when we talked about seeing Johnny Carson and Sam Donaldson in this film, and how great that was to see them again. Well, Carol Swarbrick, I have watched in so many of these television shows, movies over the years. When I saw her face, I felt the same way. It was nice to see her in this film, and she's done so much and did such a great job portraying Miss Lillian. She's been an actor for more than 5 decades, working on stages around the world, appearing in 4 Broadway shows, including 42nd Street and Side by Side by Sondheim. Some of her films are Man Trouble, starring Jack Nicholson, The Big Day with Juliana Margulies, and Big Business, starring Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin. On television, she has had recurring roles on The Bold and the Beautiful and General Hospital. And this is probably where I first saw her, because my grandmother, Ida, loved General Hospital. She came home from her job at the cafeteria at the San Marcos High School here, and she would come home, and that's the first thing she would watch is General Hospital. Johnny Carson, of course, I would sometimes stay up late with my grandfather and watch that. Carol has been in so many different television shows, but guest starring on Murder, She Wrote, Night Court, and one of my favorites, Columbo, many, many others. Welcome to the show, Carol. And then let me just introduce Jim Dries, the co-writer. He co-authored the play and screenplay of Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother. He has written the political intrigue novel, A Harsh Mistress, and will soon release his second novel, Commies, Cuties, and the CIA. What a title. I got to pick it up just for the title. In addition, he co-authored the romance nonfiction book, Better Late Than Never, a love story with his wife, Carol Swarbrick Dries. As well as being a published author and award-winning theater director, Jim, like Lillian Carter, served in the Peace Corps in the 1960s and traveled around the world 3 times. He was an educator for more than 3 decades, and since retiring, has performed on stage in delights like The Sound of Music, Side by Side by Sondheim, and The Wizard of Oz. Jim has also appeared in many, many TV commercials. Welcome to the show, Carol and Jim.
Thank you so much. You're so gracious. So What a treat to meet you and be able to speak with you.
Thank you for this great opportunity. And I will say that I guess, Jeremy, based on criteria I heard earlier, you and I cannot be distinguished.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Carol, I wanted to start with you. You were, you co-wrote, this is based on the play Miss Lillian, A Life of Some Significance, which won in 2016 Best Biographical Play by United Solo in New York. Congratulations for that. What drew you to Miss Lillian and writing the play, co-writing the film here?
Well, frankly, Jeremiah, as particularly a female actor becomes more mature, we'll say, the roles become less and less and less. And it was suggested to me by many, many people to get a one-woman show going. And I looked at a lot of women. I made most of my living in musical theater, and I looked at women in musical theater, and none of them resonated with me. Some reason I was thinking about Lillian Carter and what a character she was.
Yeah.
I her too, from Johnny Carson and Mike Douglas and with so many shows. What a character she was. But then when I learned that she celebrated her 70th birthday in India, serving as a nurse in the Peace Corps, I thought, I need to know more about this woman. And the more I learned about her, the more I felt that it was imperative to tell her story. I have to insert here that years later, because this is 11 years ago when we started working on the play, but much more recently, I met a woman because of Jim's association with the Peace Corps. I met a woman who served in India in the Peace Corps at the same time. She never met Miss Lillian, but she knew about her. She knew about Lillian Carter for the reason having nothing to do with Jimmy Carter. She knew about Miss Lillian because, and this was in the 60s, because she was a senior. It's remarkable. Before and beyond Jimmy Carter. Thank God, for many reasons, he was elected president, and we know about him and we know about her because she is inspiring from the upbringing she had, very simple, in the Deep South, not too many decades after the Civil War, that she believed in equal rights, those things. So anyway, so we started writing this play, and what a delight to perform it. And at one of the performances, at that time, it went through many iterations, and at that time the play was a 2-act play. And during the intermission, this friend of mine brought this young lady to meet me in my erstwhile dressing room, and said, "This is a great granddaughter of Lillian Carter." What? And the lady said, you ought to get a videotape of this show and send it to Uncle Jimmy. And I said, with a wink, "Do you have an address?" Just send it to the Carter Center. And I said, well,
Uncle Jimmy, huh?
But we did. We videotaped a reading of the show and sent it off to the Carter Center. And I received a truly remarkable letter from President Jimmy Carter saying, to begin with, how much he, quote, thoroughly enjoyed your delightful performance as my mother. He said, wow. Before I go on, I want to invite you and your husband, Jim, to come to Plains and meet more of the family.
Wow.
My bags are packed.
That's a great story. Well, let's pick up the story right after this quick break, but we're also going to come back with Jim Dries, the distinguishable Jim Dries. We are talking to the filmmakers and some of the cast of Miss Lillian, More Than a President's mother. Go to misslillian.com. You can get to the movie there. It's on Amazon. It's on every streaming site right now. I found it very easily and enjoyed it thoroughly. On Facebook, the Lillian Carter story. You can purchase the film at genie.us/Miss Lillian. Contact producer Stephen Ullman. If you can't find it on any of those spots, I'm sure he'd love to help you. Stephen Ullman Productions at gmail.com. We're coming right back. Stay with us. This is a great, great show. Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother. Be right back.
We're clear. By the way, the one thing that I prefer in my presidents, I want presidents who get their hands dirty, and he did. He worked a peanut farm. He got dirt under his fingernails. Most of the presidents we've had have never worked. I mean, worked a day in their lives, and that is, to me, appalling.
You guys want to tell a story about him picking 10 pounds?
Yeah, why don't we?
Yeah.
Why don't you say that, Dr. Back on air?
Okay.
But I want to ask
ready.
you a question first of Jim before we
All righty then.
before you do that.
Okay. As Jim Carrey would say,
Mr. Dries.
Righty then.
Mr. Dries.
Mr. Dries.
Distinguishable.
Mr. Dries, would you please pick up the white courtesy phone? Mr. Dries, the white courtesy phone. All right, here we go. Audio is ready. In 3, 2, 1, you're live.
Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. Having a lot of fun with Stephen Ullman, producer of Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother, and Carol Swarbrick, actor and the co-writer, and Jim Dries, so distinguishable. I'm going to keep saying it since you brought it up, Jim, and I'm going to teach you. Jim Dries, some of my favorite people here on this show today, and what an honor. And to talk about such a great person, Miss Lillian, and the film that you created about her life, and a really interesting look at her. I think a really different perspective, which was really enjoyable. Carol Swarbrick plays, Miss Lillian, and does a fantastic job. You've got to watch this performance. Jim, I wanted to ask you, you're a writer, a great writer, and a co-writer of Miss Lillian. What did you find? I know that all of you involved in this film did a lot of background, a lot of research. What did you find about Miss Lillian that you were most surprised by, that you didn't know before, that something unique about her that you really admired?
Well, first of all, because she had been in the Peace Corps in the 60s, and I was in the Peace Corps in the 60s, both of us in Asia, I kind of always had her as a person of interest in the back of my mind. By the way, please cut me off at any point. When I taught school, the April 1st edition selected me as a teacher who could take 30 seconds of trivia and turn it into...
I'd never cut you off, sir.
Hit the hook. But as I discovered more and more about her, there were so many connections. Before I really got into detail, after I retired from school teaching, I volunteered for a teaching program in Nepal when I was almost 60. I wasn't quite as old as she was, but I think she and I would agree with a quote from a famous baseball player that you probably have heard of, Satchel Paige, who said, "How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are?"
Oh, wow.
So the fact that she was a Dodger fan, I grew up a Brooklyn Dodger fan in the middle of Iowa, which is a whole nother story, but I won't go there. Carol, of course, grew up as a Dodger fan living in LA. Her birth date was the same year as my mother's birth date. Biologically, though President Carter could be my father, our mothers were born in the same year. There were just so many little ironic kind of, what do you call it, kismet are going on between us. And I always admired her outspokenness, our ability to stand up for what she believed in. Stephen mentioned the wonderful book that President Carter did about his mother, but so many other stories we found out that are in the show, or we just have found out about them. Mrs. Carter told us in one of the early meetings that an example of Miss Lillian's independence and outspokenness was that she was the only person that Miss Roseland knew who spoke kindly of Abe Lincoln. And that's in Georgia. Love that lady. Gotta love her. But you probably have other things you'd like to chat about.
Well, I will tell you that the one thing that I admired the most, and even more so today than ever before, is the fact that Jimmy Carter, who obviously Miss Lillian raised to be a working man, was just that. He ran a peanut farm. I'm sure he got dirt along with peanut dust under his fingernails. And that's what I want in a president. I want a president who knows how to dig a hole, if you will, or just do the basic manual labor. Most of the presidents we've had, and I know Reagan, he ran a ranch. I don't know how much of it actually he did, but most of these people, they've got soft hands. I'm not saying you got to have
connecting with what most people go through every day when they go to work.
Exactly.
Hard work for little money.
And so again, that legacy of Miss Lillian through Jimmy, I'm just continuing to admire her as well as him.
It's interesting, when we spent time interviewing him, he talked about his work with Habitat for Humanity. And it's not photo op time for him.
No.
Actually goes and builds houses. My understanding is that almost every piece of furniture in his and Mrs. Carter's home, he built with his own hands. He is a guy who gets his hands dirty, gets down and does the work. And when he works at Habitat for Humanity, he's working alongside other people, not just there to get his picture snapped.
Right.
And if we should forget the fact that he was a nuclear scientist. He was a submarine officer on a nuclear submarine. He trained with Admiral Rickover to train other nuclear submarine commanders. He was up at the Polytechnic Institute in Rensselaer, New York. And it was when his father died that he was pulled back to the peanut farm. We continue to read about him. I was just reading a biography last night. And in it, he is quoted as talking about, at the time his father died, he was looking forward to 30 years to retire. And then he and Miss Rosalyn were going to live either in San Diego or Hawaii. They had no concept of going back to planes, but his father's business after the illness was shaky. So he left all that. Miss Rosalyn wasn't crazy about it, but he was the man. And they actually ended up living in public housing in planes.
Oh, yeah.
No silver spoon there.
No, and no shame either. I'm sure there was no shame whatsoever in doing that. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
There's a plaque on the building today it still stands that acknowledges that. No, he's not hiding it, not ashamed of it, very proud. That's what he had to do.
Yeah.
Carol, how did you step into the role, and how did you give such a great performance and to represent Miss Lillian? Were there tricks? Were there things that you channeled from her?
I'm going to jump in. That's training and being a pro.
Yeah.
Now you can go, Carol.
Well, when you think that you're watching, you forget that you're watching an actor, a performance, and you think that you feel you're there. You feel like you're watching Miss Lillian Carter.
Nothing could be better. Nothing could be better. But frankly, I mean, it does have something to do with the fact that we did perform this play for years at a time, and those years were interspersed with so many visits to Plains, Georgia. And Stephen was talking about what a thrill it is to meet the president. Every time it was thrilling to meet the former president and to hear that voice. One of the tricks, you asked about its trick, the play begins with a video of his inauguration. I get to hear Jimmy's voice again. I get to hear that dialect. I get to hear that time, that place, and then go with it. You were talking about how wonderful it was to film in their home. Imagine, if you will, I get chills when I think about it. Imagine, if you will, lying on the bed that Miss Lillian and Mr. Earl shared, and doing, imagine what that felt like. And it did not feel foreign.
Well, I know what scene you're talking. Oh, there are a couple scenes, I believe, but the scene when Miss Lillian loses her husband and he's on the bed. I mean, that's a very powerful scene. You can there are no words, but it's an unspoken loss. You can feel the loss. And I
hand it to Vivian Winther throughout. She trusted me, I trusted her, and then of course Tyler, the editor, the way the scenes that he and Stephen and Vivian chose to be in the film. Yes.
And I would say this team is incredible. No ego, worked their butts off, never worried about sunrise, sunset, every minute on focus. Stephen has worked so hard, so continuous. Vivian was brilliant, the way she could take the script, knew what to finish with the actual person who was giving you the story, Tommy Lasordi or President Carter or Mrs. Carter, and come right back to Carol. I mean, she's, I don't know if you say a mistress, that doesn't sound right. But she's if I may, one quick story that kind of showed how the Carters had embraced us. As you may know, people go to church when he is giving the adult Sunday sermon. He's not a preacher. He just gives the lesson, which is in the Baptist primer that's printed every year for different topics on that particular Sunday. And people have to go through Secret Service protection and so forth. And because of the kindness of Jan Williams and her husband, George, we were given a seat in the second row. And then there was an empty space behind us. I didn't know what it was for. And after President Carter was finished with his Sunday school lesson, he came and we were sitting there. I was not presumptuous enough to know that he or think that he would recognize us. But Mrs. Carter stopped right by the pew where Carol was sitting, and we were sitting on the end. And she started talking to Carol. So of course we got up, and all the other people in the congregation, because it's a full house with standing room only and television in another room, they're like looking like, who is this? And President Carter turned to the audience and said, "This is my second mother."
Wow. Wow. All right, we're going to take our final break. That's a great story. Thank you. This is our final break. I just wanted to say, you mentioned that there are no egos on this film, but much professional, very, very professional team. And I have to agree with that. Producer Stephen Ullman, I don't think I've ever spoke to somebody that's more detailed for a radio show. We've talked for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I really enjoyed it. We, putting together the show and making sure that we had everything for the show. He is a real professional, Stephen, and I do appreciate you. But he did ask for green M&Ms in his hotel room there. I had to send him green M&Ms to come on the Jeremiah show. And before we go to break, last thing I want to say is, God, radio listeners, I wish you could see the handsome couple in front of me, Jim and Carol. It's great. So we'll go to the YouTube channel and watch the video, watch this interview if you'd like. But you guys make a great looking couple. There's Hollywood there.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. You're listening to the Jeremiah Show. The film is Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother, starring Carol Swarbrick. She's an actor and co-writer. Jim Dries joins us today as well. He's an actor and co-writer. Stephen Ullman, the producer. Buy a copy. Don't just rent this. Pick up a copy. It's not much more. At genie.us/Miss Lillian or on misslillian.com. It's a really great film. Check it out tonight. Dr. Dew, I'll let you take a break now. Sorry, I'm about 10 minutes late. The show's got to be over by now, right? We'll be right back.
All right, we're clear. No problem.
Okay, so what do we got? It's 12:59.
We ran over, I think.
Here's my suggestion. You come back, you wrap up this part 1 and tease part 2 so we can get to part 2.
Okay. And everybody's welcome to stay or go, whatever you got to do. But Stephen, you're going to definitely stay, right, for the second
I'm
part.
saying Vivian is joining and John Van Tongeren is joining.
Okay, so we'll Dr. D will let them in when they come in. So let's just
All right.
wrap this first part up, and we'll
Now,
tease
do
the
you have a
second one.
question?
No, I was just going to say we will stay, but we'll get off video and audio.
If you want anything, we're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't want
You
to
don't
call you, we'll just call for you.
Ingrid and John are in the waiting room.
Yeah, and by the way, unless you don't want to be on the,
Vivian and John. Ingrid is she's coming in on Ingrid's account, but it's Vivian.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Well, just saying that there are people in the waiting room.
okay.
Yeah, good.
You want to let
Let
them
me
in?
yeah, let him in, but I'm not going to say hello yet. I'm going. Are you out?
But
Okay,
let's
thanks,
wrap this first one, I think.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, let me let them in. Here they come.
I want to ask you, Carol and Jim, to both just say at the very end why they should go watch this tonight. Okay, as we wrap up.
All right. Here we go. This is again
teaser.
short close for part 2. 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. What a great hour. Part 1, unfortunately, is coming to close, but don't feel bad. We've got a part 2 coming up here, and we're going to bring in the director and the composer, along with Jim, Dries, and Carol. She's going to stay. Carol, they're both staying here. Stephen Ullman's going to stay here with us. We're talking about the film, in case you are just joining us, Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother. We'd love you to go watch it tonight. Go pick up a copy. You can download it. It's on all the streaming services. It's really great. I give it 2 thumbs up. Can I steal that from those guys?
Sure.
Will I get in trouble?
No.
Carol, tell us why, in your words, why someone should watch this film.
It's inspiring. We can all make a difference. Miss Lillian came from a very simple background, a very simple place, and a very simple time. She made a big difference. We all can.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well
it's
said.
educational. As a former teacher, it's educational. So many of the things we've seen are all talking heads telling us this is a story. You have some talking heads, but they're worked into a beautiful story of an amazing person who is a role model for today's women, today's individuals who want to stand up and do the right thing.
Well said, both of you. That's a great point, Jim. And this is not just a documentary film with talking heads, as you say. It really is a story. It's a film, and it follows some really important times in Miss Lillian's life. So we're going to wrap up this show, but stay tuned for part 2, where we welcome to the show Vivian Winther. She's the director. Stephen Ullman's going to stay with us. He's the producer. We've also got John Van Tongeren. He is the film composer. And in fact, we open our second part 2 with the score from Miss Lillian, More Than a President's Mother by John Van Tongeren. We will see you in part 2. Communicate, listen more, and evolve.
All right. We're clear.
Perfect. Wow, Stephen, are we getting everything in there you wanted on part 1?
We're very good.
Okay, I don't think we got through half of some of the stuff you sent me, but we can get that in the second part here.
You know what? There's so much to talk about.
I know.
Your questions were great, Jeremiah. We're all good.
Okay, good.
You know what? If I might suggest, spell genie.us, because people, when you give the link.
Yeah, good point. Hi, Vivian. Very nice to meet you.
Hi, Richard. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Vivian.
Film. I watched it last night. I was telling Stephen, I love it. We've been talking about it for the last hour. I think part 1 went really, really well, and we're so happy to have you here for the second part.
Fantastic. Oh my God, I'm so honored to be on your show. It's just really wonderful.
John, can you turn your video and audio on?
For who?
John.
Oh, John. John's hiding out. There he is.
John.
Hi, John.
Hey, John. There he is.
Well, I'll introduce you to myself, Jeremiah, and then Richard is a sound engineer and producer on the show. And Richard will do a couple things during this part 2. He'll give you a peace sign, which is 2 minutes to break, 1 minute to break, and then 30 seconds to break. We are recording, though. This is not live. So
I need to stop the video, speaking of which.
do you need stop now or will we
Or
won't
I
lose
can-
everybody,
You
will we?
want to? No. I just need to stop the video.
Yeah, before we start.